Click the bell icon to get latest videos from Ekeeda.
Hello friends, we'll be discussing certain details about what do you mean by check, what are the types of check and what are the uses of it or the essentials of a check. Let's go ahead with it. So when we speak about check, it is a non-negotiable instrument which comes under the purview of Negotiable Instrument Act 1881. So when we talk about Negotiable Instrument Acts, this is something that we need to understand, or we'll first figure out what is the definition of check. We have jotted down the definition of check. We'll just go through it and we'll understand what you mean by it. It's a big definition, hence we'll be parting it into different sections. The first section says that it is an unconditional order. It is something, or it is an instrument in writing rather, which is with an unconditional order. It is an unconditional order addressing the bank by the person who has the owners, or probably who is the owner of the bank account. That means if you are holding a bank account with you, or you have a specific bank account with a specific bank itself, now you are giving an instrument to the banker which contains an unconditional order. Hence, this is the definition of it. We'll further jot down the other sections of it. Now, the next section says that this specific unconditional order whereby the person or the owner of the bank account addresses the bank to pay certain sum of money, or to order certain sum of money, or to the bearer of the person or the bearer of the instrument. So this specific check is basically first an instrument in writing. This is something very important. An instrument in writing containing an unconditional order addressed to the bank by the person who holds the bank account in that bank itself, and it is the order to pay certain sum of money, or to someone a certain sum of money, or the bearer of the instrument. Now this sum of money is supposed to be paid by the bank to him, or to a certain person, or to the bearer of the instrument. Hence, a check is an instrument in writing, first part, containing an unconditional order addressing the bank to pay certain amount, and this addressing is done by the person who holds a bank account in that bank itself to pay a certain amount of money to a certain person, or to the order, or probably the bearer of the instrument. This is the definition of it. It comes under the purview of Negotiable Instrument Act that has been mentioned down here. Let's highlight that part. It is under the purview of Negotiable Instrument Act of India 1981. So this check is regulated by the body of Negotiable Instrument Act of India under section, or probably the year 1981. So this act was enacted in the year 1981, and under that itself, check is a non-negotiable or probably negotiable instrument act. Or when we talk about anything which is supposed to be negotiated, this instrument is a part of this act. Let's figure out few more details of this. Before that, we'll go ahead with the specimen of the check, how a check looks basically. So this is the specimen of the check. We'll go ahead and figure out or highlight each and every detail of it. So the top right hand side, you have the date which is supposed to be mentioned there as to which date this check is issued or presented. Pay refers to the person to whom it is supposed to be paid. It can be a self-check withdrawal or to a third party. That means you can either write yourself or the party's name. So you can either write self-check, that means yourself, that means you're withdrawing amount from your account using a check, or you're issuing a check to a party where the party's name will be mentioned there. The next line contains the contained word or bearer. If you cut this line, or probably if you cut this tagging, that means it is a conditional one whereby you further go ahead and it is supposed to be credited only to the person whose name is bared on the check. However, if this line or if this specific word is not cut, that means any person who holds this instrument will be eligible to encash the specific amount mentioned in the check. Hence, this specific word will be further discussed in this video itself, whereby we will be mentioning the types of the checks. The third line consists of rupees. That means you have to mention the amount in words. Whatever amount you have to withdraw has to be mentioned in here in words, and in the box that is mentioned down there on the right hand side, you have to mention the figure. So if you're withdrawing 10,000, you have to withdraw 10,000 from your bank account. You have to mention 10,000 in words there, and on the right hand side, you have to mention the figure 10,000. This is a pre-written or probably a predetermined account, hence the account number will be already printed there. You don't have to further go ahead and mention those things there. So account number, which is referred to your account, banking account itself, will be mentioned there. Bank name and address will also be a part here. That means this will also be a pre-mentioned instrument or predetermined or pre-printed part, whereby bank name and the address of the branch of that specific bank will be mentioned here. So where you hold that specific account, into which branch, will be mentioned in here. This is the signature column where you will be mentioning your own initials or your signatures there. This refers to the IFSC code or the MICR code of the bank. So there's a specific micro code which every bank or the branch of that specific bank holds, and that is mentioned here along with the check number. So the highlighted box shows that here check number will be mentioned. That means every check leaf that you have from your bank has a specific unique code on it that is called as a check number. Hence, when we talk about the MICR code and the check code, that is mentioned in the left or probably the bottom side of the check. This is the specimen of the check. Let's further go ahead and understand what are the essentials of the check. Now, the essentials of the check are pre-printed or probably taken from the definition itself. So we'll go with the first part. It's an instrument in writing. So every check that is a part of Negotiable Instrument Act 1981 is always a instrument in writing. That means nothing can be done orally here. It has to be in writing itself. It is drawn on a particular bank. That means every specific bank has their own check leaves. So whenever you have a check from HDFC, it can be only issued or probably it can be only withdrawn from the HDFC bank. If it has to be given for presentment or issuance, then it can be given to any other bank as well. That means if I am the holder of HDFC bank account, I can give checks of HDFC to any of the client and he can go ahead and deposit into his bank account irrespective whether it is HDFC or not. However, if you have to withdraw your amount from your bank account, you are using HDFC checks, you can only withdraw that from your HDFC bank account or HDFC branches itself. If, for example, you have an HDFC account, you cannot take ICICI bank check and enter an HDFC account and say that I need to withdraw an amount. Hence, it is drawn on a particular bank. No conditions to be involved. A check is something which is unconditional as mentioned in the definition. Hence, there is no condition that you have to withdraw 10,000 even if the balance is 11,000 or if the balance is 8,000. There is no such condition. Whatever amount has been mentioned in the account, if you have sufficient balance in your account, it will get withdrawn. You cannot say that rest will be paid up and then you can make sure the adjustments are done. It is only an unconditional order. Must be signed by the account holder. The next part is it must be signed. That means an initial of the account holder should be there to validate that check. If it is not there, it is non-enforceable. Payable on demand, that's one of the most important concept of any check, because whenever you issue a check, the banker is supposed to pay you on demand. Issuing a check itself is demanding the amount from the bank or from your own bank account. It must contain an order to pay certain sum of money. Hence, when we mention that the amount is supposed to be mentioned in the words and figures as well. If the amount is not mentioned, it is a blank check. Hence, none of the amount will be debited or credited into the account if the check numbers or if the figures are not mentioned in there. That means the amount is not mentioned there. You cannot go ahead and process the check. It is payable to a specified person only, except in cases where it is a bearer check, or except in cases where it is for self check. That means you're supposed to withdraw from your own account for your own usage. So when you have for your own usage, that point of time it is supposed to be specified to you. But if you're issuing a check to a specific party, at that certain instances, that amount is supposed to be payable to that specified person itself. I hope this is very clear about here. Let's go on to the types of check. Now, the first kind of check that we have for our references is the bearer check. As you have seen the specimen of the check, the word bearer that was mentioned in the right hand side of the check, if it is not cancelled, that means it is a bearer check. However, if it is cancelled, that means it is supposed to be an account pay check, or the person who is supposed to receive the amount as mentioned in the check itself. However, if the or bearer word is not cancelled, it is called as a bearer check. Now, whenever you have a bearer check, it is supposed to be payable to the person who holds the instrument. For example, if I'm holding that instrument, I can go into the bank and encash that specific check. However, if there is a name on the check and if the bearer is cut, that means the person to whom it is specified, only that person can go ahead and make the encashment. But if it is not cut, no matter whoever name is mentioned there, you can go ahead and encash that specific check. Hence, it is called a bearer check. The next type that we have is an order check. Just below or bearer, we can also mention or order. The wordings or bearer can be also replaced with or order. If you're replacing it with or order, that means you are mentioning the amount to be paid to the specified person only. Hence, when we mention or order inside the check or on the face of the check, that means we are ensuring that the amount goes to the specified person only. Such checks are called as or order checks. Such checks are payable to the person who has been specified in that specific check number itself, or if you have a specimen of check, if you have mentioned certain name, that amount will be given only to that specific person. Hence, by order, that specific person is supposed to receive that amount. Or if this specific check is endorsed or transferred to someone else, that person name will be here and only that person is supposed to or entitled to receive that amount. Hence, when you talk about order check, it is completely different from a bearer one. Let's go on to the next part. The third kind of check that we have is crossed check. Now, whenever on the top left hand side of the check, if there are two parallel lines that are mentioned there, let's mention it here. I'll give you a specimen of check and I'll show where it is mentioned. If this is your check on the top left hand side, if you find any check with this kind of specimen, that means on the top left hand side, if there are two parallel lines with or without any lines or wordings inside it which says account, pay or non-negotiable, such checks are known as cross check. Second thing about these cross checks are they cannot be encashed at any moment. It gets credited only into the pay account. Pay account refers to the person who is a part of that check itself. That means the name specified in that check is supposed to receive, or the amount is only supposed to be credited. That means only the account credit will be done. No encashment can be done in terms of cross checks. This is as far considered to be the safest way of giving checks or issuing checks to any party. So whenever you have to issue a check to someone else, make sure it has a cross mark there or a parallel two lines on the top left hand side. This will ensure that the check is not misused by any third party and the amount gets credited only to the person who is supposed to receive it. So this is the definition of check, the essentials of check, and the types of check that we have covered in this video. So thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned with Ekeeda and keep subscribing to Ekeeda.